Look at this. Fish 4.0 released today has officially removed all of C++ and gone straight to Rust. That's right. Hey, that's right. Officially, we have a product shipped in Rust, people. We have something shipped in Rust. No more white papers. It's been done. We're in production. Let's go. It has happened. Check the blog. Hit me with the blog. What's the blog? It's over. Everybody, C++ is officially dead. C++ is officially dead. Hold on. Article. Nice. All right, let's look at this. Let's look at this bad boy. Oh, this is from a little bit ago, right? So this is from a little bit ago. I actually used to work with this guy. He sat right next to me, the Ridiculous Fish. He's a very nice guy, by the way. Very nice guy. Officially got him. Fish, for those that don't know, is an alternative shell in which actually has its own kind of language, apparently, which is instead of Bash, because Bash is a pretty horrible language, apparently Fish is actually a really great experience. It's just that, again, you know, anytime you have these non-conforming, languages to Bash, you can see why that would be a very negative thing. I think we can all understand why we wouldn't like that, because then it's like, it's not POSIX. You can't, these other scripts are going to have all these problems, blah, 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 blah. But apparently the language of Fish is so dang good and the experience of Fish is so dang good that it's nicer to just use Fish and accept the fact that you're missing out on some things, and that's it, right? And so apparently it's pretty awesome. And Peter, by the way, Ridiculous Fish, awesome guy. About 2 years ago, our head maintainer, Ridiculous Fish, opened what quickly became our most read pull request ever, right there. Truth be told, we did not quite expect that to be as popular as it was. It was written as a bit of an in-joke for the Fish developers first, and not really a press release to be shared far and wide. We didn't post it anywhere, but other people did, and it got a lot of reactions. Observant readers will note that the PR was a proposal to rewrite the entirety of Fish in Rust from C++. Fish is no stranger to language changes. It was ported from pure C to C++ earlier in its life. Obviously, this is what... See, there it goes. That's the real problem. It was ported from the superior C experience to the inferior C++ experience, and then obviously it's going to be then ported to Rust. I mean, don't you see what's happening here? Big industrial Rust convinces C projects to convert to C++ such that they're ready and primed for a language that has way too many features and completely too many foot guns just for you to be able to then save them. This is called white knighting. This is toxic white knighting. We know what happens here. Scandalous. Absolutely scandalous. Approved by the U.S. government, but this was a much bigger project, porting to a much more different language that didn't even exist when Fish was started in 2007. Now that we have released the beta Fish 4.0 containing 0% C++ and almost 100% pure Rust, let's look back to see what we've learned and what went well and what could have gone better and what we can do now. Well, we're writing this so others can learn from our experience, but it is our experience and not an exhaustive study. We hope that you'll be able to follow along even if you have never written any Rust, but experience with a roughly C++ shaped language would help. All right. This is America. Second Amendment guarantees my access to foot guns. Okay, I demand foot guns in every citizen's hands right now. Oh my gosh, I'm getting canceled. Just cancel me now. My foot guns. All right, I'm gonna be right back. I gotta pee. I didn't plan this out. I gotta pee.
Rust, guys, am I right? Oh, shoot, I gotta go pee.
By the way, TJ is going to join for the next one, and we'll do one co-react article, okay? Sounds good? Brother, that ball has seen some things. Yeah, mostly my ass. Let's see. Well, oh, yeah, by the way, for those that haven't figured out what's happening, Fish 4.0 was released today. So, therefore, this is just talking about it being in beta, and now it's moved from beta to the next thing. Yeah, TJ's literally in my house. Random TJ spotting was awesome. 2 guys, 1 article. Exactly. Let's see. We've experienced some pain with C++. In short, tools and compilers, platform differences, ergonomics, and thread safety, community. The community being one of the pain points is just so funny. I will say that my short time, I only programmed C++ like professionally. Of the last 8 years, I probably programmed like 2 of them. two years with C++. During that time, every time I made anything, it was just like, actually, you should be able to do it this way. This way is much, much better. Actually, what you're doing there, you should actually be using this over here. You make those changes, then the next teammate comes in and be like, I don't see any unique pointers. See, you shouldn't have done it that way. You should actually revert and go back over here, and I need to see some unique pointers right now. Next person comes in. Actually, I don't think unique pointers need to be used here. I think we need to actually change. And then you're just like, my gosh, what is this experience? All right, what is this? Frankly, the tooling around the language isn't good, and we had to take on some additional pain in order to support our users. We want to provide up-to-date fish packages for systems that aren't up-to-date, like LTS, Linux, and older Mac OS. But there is no Rust up for C++, no standard way to install recent C++ compilers on these operating systems. This means that adopting a recent C++ standards would complicate the lives of packagers and would-be contributors. For example, we started using C++ 11 in 2016, and yet we still needed to upgrade compilers on our build machines until 2020. And I wonder which C++ 11 they used. Like, that's the crazy part. There's actually two C++ 11s. Fish also uses threads for its award-winning, note to the editor, find the actual award, auto-suggestions, and syntax highlighting. And one long-term project is to add concurrency to the language. Here's the dirty secret. While external commands run in parallel, Fish's execution of internal commands, built-ins, and functions is currently serial and can't be backgrounded. Lifting this limitation would enable features like asynchronous prompts or non-blocking completions, as well as performance gains. POSIX shells use subshells to get around this, but subshells are leaky abstraction that can bite you in the behind when you least expect it. For instance, you can't set variables from inside a pipe except on some shells, but only in the last part of the pipe, maybe. And if you have enabled the correct option. Yeah, I've ran into all sorts of weird little problems here. We would like to avoid that, and so the heavy hand of forking off a process isn't appealing. Okay, this is looking good. We prototyped true multi-threaded execution in C++, but it just didn't work out. For example, it was too easy to accidentally share objects across threads with only post-hoc tooling like thread sanitizer to prevent it. The ergonomics of C++ are also simply not good. By the way, like, anyone who's used C++ in an actually big project knows this is true. For the life of me, during the entirety of being at Netflix, had Clang D, or we actually Anders Backen had a C++ auto or like LSP like thing. What is it called? Anyways, he has an awesome one. I'm sure it was like a completion database and all that. It was pretty awesome. Even with Ninja builds, all that completion, JSON, all the JSON files, everything. I literally got like actually running autocomplete and definition jumping and certain things. Probably only 15% of the time it worked all the time. and even then you would run into just like, because it passes through this macro, it's impossible. That's it. If anyone says they need to look at the gRPC source code, wait, what? What? I fixed 3,000 wrongly shared this in lambdas and stopped counting at some point. Yeah. To be frank, it has gotten better. Okay, it's gotten better. I haven't used it for 2 years, so I don't know what's been going on. That's some Sex Panther numbers. I rarely got it to work perfectly regularly. I don't know. Those things kept breaking. Header files are annoying. Yes, they really are. Templates are complicated. I mean, every time I use templates, it makes me feel really good, though. That's all I'm saying. Hey, that's all I'm going to say. I really enjoyed it. I'm just saying I really enjoyed it. You can easily cause a compiler error that throws pages of overloads in the standard library at you. Many functions are unsafe to use. C++ string handling is very verbose with easily confusable overloads of many methods, making it attractive to drop down to C-style char pointers, which are quite unsafe, but also very nice. Okay, a little stir end copy. Come on. Don't do stir copy. And let's see. And the standard prioritizes performance over ergonomics. Considering, for instance, string view, which provides a non-owning slice of a string. This is an extremely modern, well-liked feature of C++ programmers often claim is a great reason to switch to C++ 17. And it is it's extremely easy to run into use after free bugs with it because the ergonomics weren't a priority. Nice. Modern. Hashtag that one. One good case study of the deficiencies of C++ in practice is by the way, I never even got to C++ 17 in 2023 when I was still playing around with that, we were still like mostly on C++ 11. So, I never even got the joys of later things. I've heard that I heard it got good. I heard C++ got amazing. I just never got to experience it. So I don't even know. 11 was good enough. 11's good enough. Is that actually true? Is that actually true? Is that true? It's pretty good? Okay. And let's see on. One good case study of the deficiencies of C++ in practice is a C library, Curses. This is a venerable library to access terminal features, and we use it to access the term info database, which describes differences in terminal features and behaviors. This not only caused us grief by being unsafe to use in weird ways. The cur term pointer, or sometimes macro, can be null, and it is dereferenced in surprising places, but also caused a surprisingly high number of issues when building from source. This was either because there are multiple implementations of it with differences as useless as this function takes a char on system X, but an int on system Y, but also because users kept coming to us with new and excitingly terrible ways to package and install it. The dependency system is the system package manager. Finally, subjectively, C++ isn't drawing in the crowds. We have never had a lot of C++ contributors. Over the 11 years Fish used C++, only 17 people have committed at least 10 commits to the C++ codebase. We also don't know a lot of people who would love to work on a C++ codebase in their free time. This actually is a really good answer right here, by the way. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. When you're doing an open source project, like, you want the higher number of people who contribute some amount of commits is actually like, that's probably the most healthy metric to any open source project. Network effect really does matter. It really, this is also to its detriment or potentially to its positive. Why React is so popular. Why would you start a project in something else? Because if you start it in something else, will you be able to hire people who are not in, right? It's like the same argument every single time. I'm not saying it's better or for worse. It's just the argument that everybody makes. Some parting thoughts we can give the C++ community. We would like to see some improvements to ergonomics and safety of the language and tools prioritized over performance. And we'd like to see efforts to make C++ compilers easy to upgrade on real systems. All right. I can't quite say all the tools right. I only ever ran like ASAN, and it caught all the bugs I've ever had. I've Valgrind a few times in my lifetime. It was pretty great. Like, the tools, yeah, they're not quite as nice, but also there's some good stuff to it. So I can't quite say that the tools are just like not there. They're just not easy. I wouldn't put them on the easy route or the easy path. There's like a little bit more you have to do. Like, you have to just even know that you need to run ASAN, right? Like, that's like a thing you just have to know you have to do on a large C++ code base. And like, there's just people that just don't know that thing. They're just like, oh, that thing even exists? Why Rust? We need to get one thing out of the way. Rust is cool. It's fun. It's tempting to try to sweep this under the rug because it feels, what is this word? Gauche, lacking ease or grace, unsophisticated and socially awkward. Gauche. Wow. I didn't realize there's an exact word to describe Twitch chat. What is this? I didn't even know. Dude, I need to get BTTV installed on this computer. Okay, I do need to do that. I don't have it installed. I'm sorry. New tattoo time. Here we go. Let's go. It feels gauche to say, but it's actually important for a number of reasons. For one, Fish is a hobby project, and that means we want it to be fun for us. Nobody is being paid to work on Fish, so we need it to be fun. Being fun and interesting also attracts contributors. Rust also has great tooling. The tools have really paid a lot of attention to use. By the way, this is actually a great argument for Rust. This is a great argument for us that the tools are really, really good. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard a lot of the super cross compilation stuff can be very confusing and difficult still with Rust. And the compiler errors are terrific. Yes, the compiler errors are generally pretty terrific until, like, some of the async trait stuff can kind of get annoying, and some of the trait stuff is really, really frustrating, where it's just like, you need to call whatever the send method is, but you just need to know the trait, so you have to compile it and look at the error message to see possibly the trait you need to get to bring in. That's always just So annoying. Not even compared to C++. They just actually rule. Yeah, they're probably one of the best in the industry for sure. And And as we have tried to pay attention to our own error messages, Fish has a bespoke error for if it thinks a file you told it to run has window line endings. We like it, and it is easy to get tooling installed. RustUp is magic. It allows people to get started quickly with minimal fuss or root permissions. When the answer to how to upgrade C++ compiler is find a repository with root permissions, compile it yourself, install some other repository or a Docker image, it is amazing how the Rust answer can just be use RustUp. Modern tooling is magic. I mean, that's just that. Isn't part of the reason why this all exists? Forgive me, Dan, you probably know the answer to this, Dan, but isn't the whole reason why C++ is so darn awful with all these things is that the language committee itself does not actually run the own tools? Right? There is no implication to tools they run. I mean, this may be an outdated opinion. I may be completely wrong on this one, but I was pretty sure that one of the big reasons is that they didn't have, like, there is not the C++ committee standard tool. And so therefore, since there is no standard tool, it just is like, here's all what the community thinks. That's bullshit. Build essentials are good enough. Somehow I think you're probably wrong. It's like, should I agree with an article that's building a terminal for multiple different environments, or should I believe the Twitch chatter? Like, I don't know if you have a large enough project that spans across Windows, different Windows versions, Linuxes, and Linuxes, and let's see, the C++ committee are standard tools. Okay, that's fair. That's a fair. Hey, good statement. Good statement. Let's see. Agree with the angry chatters. I know. I'm just saying, I just don't know if that's true. Rust has great ergonomics. The difference between C++ pointers, which can always be null, and Rust options are apparent very quickly, even to those of us who have never used them before. Yeah, I mean, obviously, having something that forces you to do an if statement is probably the right way to program. Can we all agree to that? A forced if statement is probably a good thing. Yeah, okay, but you're talking about such a narrow set, and even this is probably not even true within that, right? Like, forced if statement, very good. It's one of the, I wish Golang would have I wish they would have done just a little bit more effort on their type system. You know what I mean? I understand they were created in 2009 or whatever it was, but a little bit more effort would have been good. We did have a backport of C++ optional and liked using it, but it was never as integrated as Rust options were. Having an explicit use system where you know exactly which function comes from which module is a great improvement over include. Yes, obviously yes. Like, yes, duh. Absolutely. Ridiculous. Completely absurd. It's like, man, back when I used to concat my JavaScript into one giant file without like UMD or AMD or any of those things, yes. I mean, I was like as bad as include. Rust makes it nice to add dependencies. We won't go overboard with it, but we do want to change our history format from the homegrown, I can't believe it's not YAML. Poor souls, to something specified that other tools can actually read. And Rust makes this easy to add support for our YAML, JSON, KDL. But the killer feature of Rust, from Fishshell's perspective, is send and sync, statically enforcing rules around threading. Fearless concurrency is too strong, but you can still blow your leg off. You can still blow your leg off with fork and signal handlers, but send and sync will be the key to unlocking fully multi-threaded execution with confidence in its correctness. I mean, it is nice. I mean, that you have to at least minimally agree, because I know there's definitely some anti-rusters in the audience. Having something that when you cross the thread boundary, being like, you can't do that. You need to wrap it. You need to wrap that into an arc, right? Like that. There is something very good about that. There is something very good about that just helps you not goof up that. I like that. I think that is good. I like that. We did not do a comprehensive survey of other languages. We were confident Rust was up to the task and either already knew it or wanted to learn it, so we picked it. By the way, I do not like Rust. For those that are wondering, I am reading this going, shh, that don't sound like fun to me. But I do love that they're excited. I love to see excitement, right? Like, I can celebrate somebody liking Rust without like my feelies being hurt, and I think that's a very good thing. Because some people can't celebrate things without their feelings being hurt. It's just like, I'm not on Team Rust, therefore this project, it sucks. It's like, no, I'm happy about this. People are happy and they're building a good thing, and this is very exciting. By the way, I do want to say thank you very much, Monolith. I can't believe you gave me 10 subs. And then right before that, McKelvey Dev, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. And then right before that, Retro Rex, thank you for the gifted sub. I mean, it's just like, it's flowing like the salmons of Capistrano. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, exactly. It's just like, I want... You know what? They are pre-firing the X language does that too. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, I love when people like. My biggest thing I want to see is people being excited and be like actually diving in to do a thing. Right? I think that is really good. That is a good, great thing. I'm happy for them, but imagine using Rust. I wish I did. No. Let's see. A lot of hay has also been made online about Rust platform support. I heard it wasn't like amazing, but again, I've never done a cross compilation thing of Rust. Like I've never built something for Windows and for Linux, right? Like that's just not a thing my goal is to never use Windows for anything but gaming and streaming. Like that's just a reality. So I don't know if it's true, but we don't see a big problem here. All of our big platforms, Mac, Linux, and BSDs, so they don't even have Windows, are supported as are Open Solaris and Illumos and Haiku. Okay. Classic. You know, I was actually really concerned about Haiku not making that list. Very concerned about Haiku not making the list. It made the list, so I'm happy about that. We have never heard of anyone trying to run Fish on nonstop. Architecture support is even less of a problem. Going by Debian's Popcorn, 99.9995%, the actual result, not exaggeration, of machines run an architecture that has Rust packages in Debian. Given that Fish is installed on 1.92% of Debian systems, we would project 2 or 3 machines of the 250,000 responses to have Fish on an unsupported architecture. Unlike what some online have assumed, a native window port was not a reason for switching to Rust, as it was never in the cards. Fish is, at heart, a Unix shell that relies not only on Unix APIs but also their semantics and exposes them to scripting language. What would TestX say on Windows, which has no executable bit? These are issues that could be solved with a lot of work, but we're Unix nerds making a Unix shell, not one for Windows. Oh my gosh. Just a man after my own heart right here. Oh my God. I think I'm loving the Fish people. I think I love them. Hold on, my beautiful wife is calling me. Yes, beautiful wife. My wife is going to bring me a smoothie. Ooh. Oh my gosh, I love her. Anyways, sorry. Hey, Conrad, thank you very much, and thank you, oh my gosh, McKelvey Dev. Okay, guys, what is going on here, guys? Okay, we're not. I'm like in the middle of an article react. Okay, I'm like reading an article. We're not supposed to be doing subtime. What is happening here? What is going on? What are you doing? Thanks for the 6 subs, though. Appreciate that. I assume that's because you're trying to get number one.
My brayless wife.
My braless wife is bringing me a sandwich. How's your day going? For those that don't get that joke, I got to take off autoplay because that's going to be crazy. For those that's a Ninja joke. Ninja, there's like a tweet that he said. What was the Ninja Braless? What's the tweet? I'm in the middle of carrying a League of Legends game, about to close it out, and my braless wife brings me a sandwich, not asked for, with chips as I get a double kill bot lane. How's your day going? I have no idea why Ninja's streaming career tanked. I honestly have no idea. Like that man makes content. That's content right there. Legendary tweet. It's just absolutely legendary tweet. It's so absurd. I swear this is just so insane. I am in the middle of reading an article about to close it out, and my braless wife brings me a smoothie, not asked for. People are gonna get angry with this one. With and a second for a Tej. As I let's see. How do I do a double kill? What's the double kill? What's the double kill? Please do not include me into this. And a second for TJ. It's too late. What is it? What is the thing? Oh, I'm not. My wife just told me I'm not allowed to post that. Okay. Oh, whoopsies. I didn't mean to hang up. Oh my gosh, I just hung up on her. Oh my goodness, I just hung up on her. Whoopsies. Fine. Not allowed to post that. Get it out. My wife may watch the stream. Not allowed to tweet that, by the way. The man's made for content. Well, looks like I'm not getting a smoothie. The one platform we care a bit that it does not currently seem to have enough support is Sigwin. What? Which is sad, but we have to make a cut somewhere. Ah, yes, good old-fashioned Sigwin. Everybody's favorite. Dude, I got caught. Dude, we're just moving on, guys. We're moving on. Everybody shut up. Meme denied. Hey, everybody shut up. We're moving on. Okay? Thank you for the level 6 hype train. That is awesome. Flip, actually take it out. Take it out. Okay? Take it out. Braless TJ. We decided we were going to do Fish of Theseus port. We would move over component by component until no C++ was left. And at every stage of that process, it would remain a working fish. This was a necessity. If we didn't, we would not have a working program for months, which is not only demoralizing, but would have also precluded us from using most of our test suite. Yeah, that's true. Oh, okay. Flip. Hey, McKelvey Dev, I don't know what the 1,000 bits are for. I don't know what the 11 gifted subs are for, but hey, thank you. Genuinely appreciate that. Lucky Hippo, thank you. Thank you for the level 7 hype train. I know usually I try to stay in the zone when reading these articles, but I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Why Linux people got to sound so pretentious? I'm not sure what do you mean they sound so pretentious? Where's the pretentious part? Like, bro, I don't want to work on Windows, and people who work on Windows, they don't want to work on Linux. Like, that's okay. Like, why would you want to work on all the operating systems? Like, that job sounds like the worst of all jobs. Like, out of any job, having to do the one that makes you do everything is actually the worst job. Like, that has to be the worst. Oh my gosh, Code Girl, what are you doing? Canister, thank you for the third one, Lucky Hippo, low taper fade. I did have, dude, thank you very much for the 25 gifted subs. Cross-compiling is a kink. Dude, it is a kink. It's crazy. People who work on Windows also don't want to work on Windows. Like, exactly, that's what I just said. It's everybody has equal operating system hate. Like, Linux doesn't like Windows doesn't like Linux, and we both think people who work on Macs are douches. And so it's like there's this whole thing that exists. Like, it does exist everywhere. Like, have you met a Mac user? Like, think about how pretentious they are comparatively. Okay? Come on. Have you met an Arch Linux user? Actually, let's see, hold on. I'm just going to reread this one. This was a necessity. If we didn't, we would not have working programs for months, which is not only demoralizing, but it would also precluded us from using most of our test suite, which is end-to-end tests that run a script or fake a terminal interactions. We would also not have been able to do another C++ release, putting some cool improvements into the hands of our users. By the way, I actually think long rewrites are generally the worst. I have really never met a project that came out better for a long rewrite. It just came out different. So I think this whole replacing the engine while driving thing or changing the wheels while driving could actually be one of the better ways to do things. And so that's pretty great. I think that's actually pretty great. Had we chosen to disappear into a hole, we might not have finished at all. And we would have to redo a bunch of work once it became testable. We also mostly kept the structure of C++ code intact. If a function is in the env subsystem, it would stay there. Resisting the temptation to clean up allowed us to compare the before and after and find places where we had mistranslated something. Beautiful. We also use Auto C++ to generate bindings between C++ and Rust code, allowing us to port one component at a time. Beautiful. This would be kind of a fun there's a part of me that's kind of sick and twisted that would enjoy this kind of work. I don't know what it is, but there's some weird part of me that has always enjoyed hey, let's do a running refactor. I want to make a part of the system better and release little bits. Because every time I've ever done it any other way, I've never loved it. But the little bit has always been great. We started by porting the built-ins. These are essentially little self-contained programs with their own arguments, streams, exit codes, etc. That means it's easy to port them separately from the rest of the shell once you have a way to call a Rust built-in from C++, which we had as part of the initial pull request. All right. Where they connected to the main shell, we used one of the 3 approaches. Add some FFI glue to the C++ to make it callable from Rust, port the caller, and leave the callee for later. Move the callee to Rust, and if necessary, make it callable from C++. Write a Rust version of the callee and call it from the porter called, or ported caller, but leave the C++ version around. For instance, almost every built-in needs to parse its options. We have our own implementation of getopt that we re-implemented in Rust in the initial PR, but the C++ version stuck around until it had no more callers remaining. Otherwise, we would have had to rewrite C++ to Rust bridge and adjust the C++ callers to use it. This is great. Like, it's okay to have double code. Beautiful. Great. This is good wisdom, by the way. This is really good wisdom. You don't have to eat the whole hog. You know, hey, guys, don't misrepresent me on that one, okay? You know what you do. Don't do it. It's actually pretty nice, right? The Strangler pattern is a software modernization strategy that incrementally replaces parts of the legacy system with new functionality, allowing both systems to coexist until the legacy system is fully phased out. Okay, good. Get that whole hog in there. For instance, oh, whoopsies. Or the built-in. The built-in called built-in needs access to the names of all built-ins to print them for the built-in get names. In that case, we bridge some access to the amounts to a constant vector of strings in C++ and eventually moved it over once users were in Rust. That's how it went for a while. We finally hit the more entangled systems where porting larger chunks felt more productive, since that reduced the amount of tricky FFI code to be written, only to be thrown away. These were ported in solo efforts. This includes the input-output reader, which is, unsurprisingly, one of Fish's biggest parts, ending up at about 13,000 lines of Rust. That's a big feature, by the way. I find that at 13,000, that level of code usually requires me to understand the problem pretty thoroughly before I can write something well at 13,000 lines. Like that's usually right around the amount, because I always find right around 5,000 to 8,000 is where whatever, like, if it's like 2,000 lines of code, you can almost write anything. It doesn't matter how you write it, what you write it. It's practically free to rewrite. Like, I can understand that, but once it gets beyond that, it gets so dang difficult if you don't have like a good strategy put in, right? All right. During the port, we hit a bunch of snags with Auto CXX. Sometimes it would just not understand a particular C++ construct, and we spent a lot of time trying to figure out ways to please it. As an example, we introduced a struct on the C++ side that wrapped C++'s vector. Because for some reason, AutoCXX liked to complain about vector stewing, we had to fork it and add support for wstring and wchar, which is understandable because using wchar is a horrible decision. We only used it because of a historical mistake. Oh, that's pretty funny. That was pretty great. Similarly, we had the wrap some C++ variables in unique pointer, and similar to make the ownership rules understandable to Auto CXX, or copy values that didn't strictly need to be copied. This caused performance during the port to go down quite a bit, but we regained all of it in most spots and even beat the C++ version in some. We also patched Auto CXX to remove the requirement to use unsafe to invoke any C++ API, because that would have obscured uses of unsafe that would disappear just by porting the callee. We were also building something temporary, so sometimes it is okay to do something a little underhanded. Yeah, that's fine. If you use this for a permanent bridge between Rust and C++ in a few parts of your code, the unsafe markers might be useful, but in our case, they were noise. All right. What's wrong with wchar? I do not know. I do not have enough wchar experience to know why wchar would be bad. I just don't. I never actually used it once. I can't think of a single time I used wchar or wstring. Let's see. Right. Because AutoCXX generated a lot of code, some tools were less helpful than they'd usually be. Rust Analyzer, for instance, was extremely slow. Nice. Rust Analyzer, really great. But yes, it's always been historically pretty slow. So even though our code base was fairly amenable to being moved to Rust, because we didn't use exceptions or a lot of templates, AutoCXX isn't easiest to work with. It is absolutely magical that it works at all, and it enabled us to this port, but it has a hard task to perform and isn't perfect. Okay, and then here's the timeline. I don't think I care about the timeline because it's already released. So at this point, it's already released, so we don't need to think about that. But I think this is crazy. The initial PR was 2023 in January, and the beta is in 2024, and now today, the 27th of February, it's been released. That's pretty great. How much is the fish? I'm not sure how much is the fish even means, to tell you the truth. It won't surprise anyone who has spent any time of this world of ours that Rust is not, in fact, perfect. We have some gripes about it. Chief among them is how Rust handles portability. While it offers many abstractions over systems, allowing you to target a variety of systems with the same code, when it comes to adapting your code to systems at lower level, it's all based on enumerating systems by hand, using checks like this. Right, which at the end of the day, this is kind of like if-defs. Isn't this effectively what you're running into when you start hitting when you start hitting this code, you're hitting the if-def life? Give me that if-def life. All right. This is an imperfect solution, allowing you to miss systems or ignoring version differences entirely. From what we can tell, if FreeBSD 12 gains a function that we want to use, libc would add it, but calling it would fail on FreeBSD 11 without a good way to check at the moment. But listing targets in our code is also fundamentally duplicating work that the libc create. I assume there must be ways to, I guess my brain would assume that there must be ways to say that the target OS is also at a specific version. I don't know. Hashtag if-def life, baby. Oh, I've if-def lifed. I've if-def life, and I've regretted every if-def I've ever written. Besides for my Paragma ones, I don't think there's an if-def I love, right? I don't think I've ever been to a point where I'm like, I love if-defs. It's always been like, why did I do this to myself? Why do I live this life? This is an imperfect solution, allowing you to miss systems and ignoring version differences entirely. Oh, whoopsie daisies. We already read that. Whoopsies! But our listing targets in our code is also fundamentally duplicating work that the libc create, in our case, has already done. If you want to call libc X, which is only defined on systems A, B, and C, you need to put a check for systems A, B, and C yourself. And if libc adds system D, you need to add it as well. Instead of doing that, we are using our own rsconf crate to do compile time feature detection in build rs. Most of this would be solved if Rust had some form of saying, compile this if the function exists. Config, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that'd be great. With that, the libc crate could do whatever checks it wants, and fish would just follow what it did, and we could remove a lot of the use of rsconf. It would not really help support older distributions that lack some features, though. That could be solved by something like min target API version config. While we're on portability, the tools also sometimes fail to consider other targets. Clippy may warn about a conversion being useless when it isn't on another system. It is often better to use if config instead of config this one. This is a macro declaration. This is a declarative macro versus what do they call that? A proc macro. So these exist on top of functions, right? This is on top of functions. This is within a function. I got my Rustism right on where these things can exist, I assume. I guess you could use these inside of a function, right? If you had a struct or something, maybe you can. I don't even know. I've never actually used one of these inside of a function. Because code behind the latter is eliminated very early, so it may be entirely wrong and only shows up when building on an affected system. We've also had issues with localization. A lot of the usual Rust relies on formatted strings that are checked at compile time, but unfortunately, they aren't translatable. We ported printf from Muscle, which required for our own printf built-in anyways, which allows us to reuse our pre-existing formatted strings at runtime. Oh, beautiful. Okay. The mistakes. Ooh, what are the mistakes? Ooh. We've hit some false starts, dead ends, and other kinds of mistakes. For instance, we originally used a fancy macro to allow us to write our strings as foo-l, but that did not end up carrying its weight, and we removed it in favor of regular declarative macro foo calls. We were confused by deprecation warnings in the libc crate, which explains that time t will be switched to 64-bit on Musel. Am I saying that right? Is it Muscle or Musel in the future? We initially tried to work around it, adding a lot of wrappers to try to stay agnostic on that size, but only later figured out that it does not affect us. As we pass a time t, we get from one C library to another. All right, some bugs appeared because we miss subtleties of the original code. Often this turned into a crash because we used asserts or asserts modern cousin unwrap. I mean, to be completely fair, expect would be like asserts modern cousin, right? Isn't unwrap just not modern cousin, right? Isn't that what it really is? Is that you should be using expect, because at least you can add like a little string, like I expect this to always be in this state, and if it's not, the whole program needs to crash because this should never happen. This was often the easiest way to translate C++, and sometimes it simply turned out to not be accurate, and we had to replace it with different error handling. By the way, this is probably a good thing to think about because maybe your C++ was also wrong, right? But overall, most of these were, once found, pretty shallow. It panics here. Why would it do that? Oh, this can be an error. Okay. What leads to that? Okay, let's handle it this way. We've also caused some friction by turning on link time optimization combined with having release builds as the default in CMake, currently needed to run the full test suite, which makes it easy to accidentally have very long build time. Well, you're also using Rust, so, I mean, come on. You're going to have very long build times no matter what. The good. A lot of benefits of porting Rust will appear over time, but some are already there. Remember our issue with end curses? We no longer have any because we no longer use curses. Instead, we switched to a Rust crate that gives us what we want. Is this term? What is it? Rust term info. Oh, nice. Okay. Well, that's pretty nice. That gives us what we need, which is an access to term info and expanding its sequences. This removes some awkward global state and means that those building from source no longer need to ensure that Curses is installed correctly on their system. Cargo just downloads the crate and builds it. I mean, tooling is magic. Good tooling is magic. Good tooling is just always magic. We do still read term info, which means users need to install that, but that can be done at runtime, is pre-installed on all mainstream systems, and if it can't be found, we just use an included copy of Xterm 256 color definitions. Let's go. Xterm 256 color, let's go. Yeah, but supply chain nightmare Cargo, it definitely is. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's fair. There is definitely like a supply chain nightmare when it comes to Cargo. Any of these large systems in which you can download any library, especially at super fine grained details, has supply chain system problems, and then on top of it, it also has supply chain attack problems, which is very terrifying. Good tooling is why C# is better than Java. Yeah, Java literally has the same problem as C++. Like, you have to have some other thing, right? Awesome. Good. I'm glad that happens. Gotcha. But it's like, it's exactly, Java has always been awful. Java plus Maven works great. Yeah, but you still need something else, right? I want Java, right? Like, that's the ideal build tool, is just the language itself gives you the thing, and that's it. And it's like, okay, you want this? Java, right? Yeah. Right, that's what I want. I just want the thing. I don't want other things. I don't want other things to build my project. I want the thing. We also have managed to create self-installable fish packages that include all the functions, completions, and other asset files in the fish binary to be written out at runtime. That allowed us to create statically linked versions of fish. For the Linux, this uses Muscle because glibc has unavoidable crashes. So for the first time, we have one file you can download and run on any Linux, the only requirement being that the architecture matches. This is a pretty big boon for people who want to use fish, but sometimes SSH to servers where they might not have root access to install packages, so they can just SCP a single file and it's available. This might be possible with C23's embed, but Rust allowed us to do it now, and overall pretty easily. The SAG. One goal of the port we did not succeed was removing CMake. That should be the goal of every developer. Developer, what is good in life? To crush your enemies, to see them flee before you, and to hear the lamentations of the CMake. That's because while Cargo is great at building things, it's very simplistic at installing them. Cargo wants everything in a few neat binaries, and that isn't our use case. Fish has about 1,200 .fish scripts, 961 completions, 217 associated functions, as well as about 130 pages of documentation as HTML and man pages, and the web config tool and the man page generator, both written in Python. It also has a test suite that is light on the unit tests, but heavy on end-to-end script and interactive tests. The scripted tests run through our own little check tool, which runs a script and compares its output to embedded comments. The interactive tests are driven by pexpect, which fakes terminal interactions and checks the right thing happens when you press a button. We kept CMake in simplified form for these tasks, but let it hand over the responsibility of building to Cargo. It would be possible to switch all that to a simpler task runner like Just, or even plain old Makefiles. But since we already have this system, we're keeping it for now. Yeah, I actually like the idea of Just. Just files, they seem kind of neat. Hey, Just files, they seem kind of neat. I kind of feel like I want to start adopting this idea of Just files. The upside is that the build process Hasn't really changed for the packagers. We're also losing Cygwin as a supported platform for the time being because there is no Rust target for Cygwin, and so no way to build binaries targeting it. We hope that this situation changes in the futures, and we had also hoped it would improve during the almost 2 years of the port. For now, the only way to run Fish on Windows is to use Weasel. Why would you use Cygwin these days? Like, I don't understand. Like, when I was using my days using Cygwin were because we had to run Linux on Windows, and there just wasn't really an option for us to do that other than Cygwin. But now we have Weasel, so why would you use Cygwin now? Weasel has poor disk access. Oh, okay. Well, when people say Weasel, they mean Weasel 2, right? No one's talking about original Weasel. VPN bullshit, honestly. Okay. Let's see. Some places are hung up on being Windows shops. Okay. Cygwin D's nuts. Damn. Okay. Damn. That's good. I mean, that's a good one. Weasel sucks. Resource Hog and FileWatch API don't work. Oh, FileWatch API would be insane not to have. Isn't Cygwin open source versus Weasel? I mean, brother, you're on Windows. I just don't think the argument for open source works when you're on Windows. I'm just saying. It's if I/O is critical, you need pre-copy the input to Weasel internal disk, right? Okay. Windows has done a lot more open source now. Yeah, but it's still not open source. Like, Windows itself is not open source. What if you work for Windows 10? Then it's technically open source to you. Yeah, fair enough, I suppose. You're running an OSS OS. Yeah. You're running an open source software operating system. Yeah, the proper question, why use Windows? I mean, I hate to break this to you, but most people on Earth, I believe, are using Windows. Most servers run not Windows. They run Linux, the proper operating system. But most people run Windows. False? And where do you get your data from? No, not poll. We're not, no. This room that we're in right now, the room we're in right now is not an accurate representation of what people run on computers. And I'll give you an example. Type 1 if you use Arch Linux. Okay, you see that there's already, look at those ones. That's already about half of all Arch Linux users might just be in this room right now, okay? So, okay, let's pretend some of them are memeing. Let's pretend half of them are memeing. There is still, this is what is called selection bias, okay? You're watching me read articles about Fish, a shell that is only available on Unix systems. Artix, actually, right? Anyways, come on. You should know this by now. These are obvious things. We've succeeded. This is a giant project, and we made it. The sheer scale of this, perhaps best expressed in numbers. Wow, that is so many files changed. Oh my gosh. Oh, wait a second. Am I reading this correct? Can we draw the conclusion that Rust is more verbose than C++11? Can we draw that conclusion? Or wait, did they move to C++17? Can we say that Rust is more verbose? Because right now, what I'm seeing is more code. I'm seeing more code. Okay, I see approximately 20,300 lines of more code, 20,200 and something more lines of code. Okay. Chat, is this a skibbity? No. We don't do skibbity around here, okay? We do skijippity, okay? Skijippity is like, is the place to be, okay? Because it literally just means you're an LLM and your thoughts are LLMs. Skijippity, yeah, skijippity. You got it. Yeah, skijippity. I love the content. Thank you. Is Skibbity a programming language? I'm sure it is. There's definitely Skibbity Python, right? All right. 2,600 commits. That's so insane. 500 issues, almost 2 years of work, 57,000 lines of C++ to 75,000 lines of Rust. Oh my gosh. Look at it. I told you. I called it. Rust, more verbose. The beta works very well. Performance is usually slightly better in terms of time taken. Oh, thank you, baby. Appreciate that. The beta works very well. Performance is usually slightly better in terms of time taken. Memory use has slightly higher floor, but a lower ceiling. It will use 8M instead of 7M at rest. But e.g., globbing a big directory won't make it go up as much. These things can all be improved, of course, but for a first result, it is encouraging. Fish is still a bit of an odd duck. Fish as a Rust program. It has some bits that smell like C Spirit directly using the C API, e.g. passing around file descriptors instead of file objects. It still uses UTF-32 strings. Wow, UTF-32? That's crazy. Which is why we're using a fork of the pcray2 crate, because we couldn't convince the pcray2 crate maintainer to add UTF-32 support. We hope to find a nicer solution here, but it wasn't necessary for the first release. The port wasn't without challenges, and it did not go entirely as planned, but overall, it went pretty dang well. We're now left with a codebase that we like a lot more, that has already gained some features that would have been much more annoying to add with C++, with more on the way, and we did it while creating a separate 3.7 release that also included some cool stuff. By the way, okay, so maybe there's some more features that explain some of this line growth. Okay, so maybe Rust isn't as big. Let's see what this says. A lot of the increase in line count can be explained by Rust formatting, as it likes to spread out over multiple lines like this. It does. Rust formatting does love spreading out over lines. Okay, C++ loves 120 line columns, maybe 160 line columns. I'm pretty sure that C++'s like standard expectation is 200 line minimum. Vertical code is way better than long lines. Oh, hands down. You should, ideally, you should be able to read code up this direction, right? Like, that's what you want, is up and to the left. Like, that actually, I think, is the ideal way to be able to read something. Or down and to the right. I've seen greater than 200 lines, and that's why I'm a recovering alcoholic. Yeah, no, I get it. I don't blame you. I mean, you work at, can you explain that more? The ideal, because I can go like this. I can read this and go, okay, if op show, and I can read like this. This is a very easy way to read. Whereas if this was spread out like this way, really long, this is a very unideal way to read code, right? Having to go all the way across the screen is very unideal. One line, it is harder. It is just harder. So being able to read from top, generally going down to the right is just easier, right? Non-ideal. Don't lie, you can't read. Damn it. I've been caught. Like, that's why I love, that's why I just absolutely, Python are one-liners. Some one-liners are fine, though. In Python, if you're doing array comprehension, but it's, like, pretty tiny, I think it's pretty fine, right? You're doing, like, a little for if this, and it's just like it's just like 60 columns. That's fine to me. Not a big deal, right? 60 lines or 60 columns, not a big deal. If you're doing, like, multiple fors and you're, like, going nuts, I mean, that's just like anyone's bad programming, right? People just want to keep on fitting things in, and when you get really good, you lose your ability to understand what's bad and good. You know what I mean? Like, this is why Prettier added a nice way to do ternary statements. There should be no nice formatting for ternary statements. You know why? Because ternary statements are fundamentally broken ways to program. Like, it's good to be able to use them just for like a simple one-line piece of value, right? If X, Y, or Z. Like, that's good. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. But people go, well, if X and X2, then if Y and Y2, then you're like, no, you've ruined it. And Prettier adding ternary support, right? A curious case of ternaries. To me, this was like the definition of right here, right? This was the definition of, oh, there exists a feature that when you get good enough at it, you are dumb. You like become a bad programmer again. And you don't realize why you become a bad programmer, because you don't have, you've effectively, you can't see the forest for the trees, right? Like, you should never write a code. You should never write code. You should never write a nested ternary, right? Like, that should be just banned, and you should get punished thoroughly. Let's see, I've seen ternary explosions in prod code. Yes, and it's bad. But this is what I mean. So it's like, code should always read a certain way. And the more you can get it to read like this, I think the easier it generally is, because this is very, very clear what's happening here. You have this, and this group, which is a bunch of ors. Like, that's a very clear statement. No questions what's happening here. None. Not one. I know a lot of if statements. This is a good one, right? Like, if you have to write that as an if statement, that's really hard. Now, preferably, you could even make this into like a function that does a check on all of these things at once, so that way it's like a little bit clearer, but that's that. All right, hey, the name. is the Primogen. And good job, Fish. Awesome block and awesome job. Super cool that they released all this.